and the attempt to try to paint him as a Klansman. Hank Jr. mouths off on Fox and Friends, says that Obama playing golf with Boehner is like Hitler playing with Netanyahu, just probably got himself fired off ESPN's Monday Night Football intro. He was an idiot. He deserved it. 7 or 8 other things that have been just my agenda, and you reacting to it, which I love. Folks hop on every once in a while with just things that occur to them, and we always like to let them do so. And so here once again for a return engagement, the Oracle of Prosper, it's Kenny. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty well. Thanks for having me on again.
What you got for us this time?
Well, I wanted to briefly summarize where we left off and then move into a related topic of limited government.
Very good.
Okay. I said, Elena Kagan said in her confirmation hearing that the courts would be wrong to strike down laws they think are senseless just because they are senseless.
Right.
And my view to that was that the First Amendment was designed to prevent laws that are based in faith. And what that means mathematically, not colloquially, is that it's designed to prevent laws that are senseless.
And exactly. We went through the semantic discussion of you don't mean senseless as derisively,
not derogatory,
right? But
I don't begrudge anyone their faith,
right? But you do have to live in the world that exists, and if you say is senselessness good, we need a synonym. We need something. I don't know. Let's call it something demonstrable, something empirical, rather than something that's an article.
Right. But the reason that's important is a lot of Christian conservatives have a problem perceiving the following fact: Marxism is a faith-based belief system. Meaning, in factual, mathematical terms, it is a religion.
Okay, well, I know what you mean about the religious style fervor that one can have for Marxism, but tell me what you mean.
Well, what I mean is, if you read the Commie Manifesto, as I like to call it, right, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but that is subjective. Okay, that is subjective. I share
agree with that 100%.
I share your derision for it.
It's 2 + 2 = 5.
I know. Well, so is today's Democratic Party. You know, I mean,
well, sure,
and
exactly. That's my point entirely. The point is,
okay, all right.
The mathematics of that is if the First Amendment does not mean a separation of faith from law,
right,
then we have something that Madison referred to in the Federalist 10 as pure democracy.
Is there, so that we can, since we're kind of reliving the last chat, which was great, let's tie a bow around that and move to whatever you have today, but let's do it in the following way. Is there an example of something on the books today that seems to be violative of what you're talking about?
Sure, Obamacare. That'd be the very first thing. It doesn't make any sense. If the legislature can not read a 2,000-page bill and vote it into law, then we do not live in a constitutional democracy.
Well, you're right, and the Constitution certainly does not allow government to make us buy something. I mean, it's possible to have that debate without getting as arcane, and I'm a fan of being arcane. But
well, I think everything conservative should be based in principle, and then you build outward from principle.
Sure. Okay. Now, what do we got today?
Okay. A couple of things you mentioned recently and over the years. First of all, lots of conservatives and members of the Tea Party talk about limited government.
Right.
And lately you've talked about the question of how much of our money should we be able to keep.
Right.
And I've agreed with you that not one dime should be taken above that which is necessary for proper government.
Mm-hmm.
But as usual, when you're talking to me, my concern is getting to the exact level of granularity on that question.
Right.
Because you've also said over the years, and you know, with a great deal of respect, I can't show you more respect than to actually listen to your show.
Thank you.
You've said over the years something like, if a local government wanted to make a law against eating bananas, that would be perfectly constitutional.
Absolutely right. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well,
they can. It's not unconstitutional to do that. It might be crazy, but it's not unconstitutional.
It is unconstitutional. I'll tell you why.
Right.
You're making the exact error that Alexander Hamilton warned us would be made in the Federalist 84 if we were to have a Bill of Rights. And let me summarize his position. He wrote that we the people surrender nothing, and as we retain everything, we have no need of particular reservations. He believed that having a Bill of Rights would allow people to construe that to be the limit of our rights. Now, Hamilton did not get his way, and then we did get a Bill of Rights, but Amendment 9 directly addresses his concern, and that's the source of it. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. So the important thing is, what are those other rights retained by the people?
Right.
And in Hamilton's words, we surrender nothing.
But you know, but that has a real world impossibility that I'll describe in the following way, because this is a wonderful conversation. That does freedom mean that we should be free to pretty well do anything that doesn't violate the rights of others, or does our freedom also include the freedom to gather as a community and ban certain things? That's a fascinating debate. Using what you've just given me, though, we couldn't ban anything. You couldn't. Let's say strip club next door to a school. Tell me why a community cannot do that.
Getting to the criteria.
No, we need to get there in a hurry, because we really need to get there. So using what you've given me, the Hamiltonian thing. Go ahead.
But the Constitution says what the purpose is to provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty.
Okay.
It doesn't say and or secure the blessings of liberty.
No, I get it, but this is a very specific answer. I have a question. I need a very specific answer, because the logic you've given me is that we could never ban anything using the logic you've given me. You could never ban anything. From our
first discussion and this one, before anything can become a law at any level of government, the following question must be answered.
All right.
Is this law absolutely necessary to securing the liberty of individuals?
Totally subjective. I mean, wait, securing the... Okay, secure... I mean,
For example,
that's very subjective. Go ahead.
Can a local government say, it'd be a great idea to have a hotel and compete with the private sector? That doesn't secure anybody's liberty.
No, I understand that.
It's not designed to secure liberty. The important thing that law at every level of government... If the Constitution is to function, if we are to function as a constitutional democracy, then the set of criteria surrounding a law must first begin with A, does this law exist in the service of securing liberty?
But there is no way to reach objective agreement on that. That you're laying down a standard that it seems like that everybody ought to agree on, and they never will.
You can't agree in every situation.
No, exactly, which is why I'm saying that...
A reasonable argument can have components that are not fully understood mathematically. But if someone can come along and say, that component, that premise underlying that argument, if they can show that to be false, then that law can no longer be constitutional.
Well, I got to go back to the school and the strip club. Using the logic you've just given me, there is no basis for a community saying you can't have a Rick's Cabaret next to an elementary school.
No, if a group of people can argue why that would be a bad idea and argue it reasonably...
That's not what you're saying.
You're liberty.
Okay, I would suggest that the hardcore libertarian, would probably say strip club has a right to be next door to the school if there's an empty tract of land.
It may, but the type of advertising outside may not fall within that.
Well, isn't that don't they have a liberty to have a woman's breast hanging out on that sign right next to the elementary school too? Hey, it's our liberty. That's what happens when liberty does not have.
If someone can make a reasonable argument against
reasonable,
I think in that case,
that's an easy call. That's an easy call. In that case, reasonable is a fairly easy call. There are a million cases where reasonable is not an easy call. You're giving me words like reasonable and whatever the other one was that are just so subjective that we can't...
Well, reason is not subjective by definition.
No.
But what you're suggesting...
Go ahead. Sorry.
There's no problem with the gray areas.
Yeah.
But the problem is that we have to understand that those questions are the foundation of law. Law is not when people get together and decide what would be a good idea or what would be cool.
Yeah, I think it kind of is. And people can either like it or not like it.
That's an ugly society.
Only if people are ugly. Only if people are ugly. We get exactly the laws we deserve.
What you're suggesting is mathematically not a constitutional.
No, it's not. Stop the mathematical references. I know what you mean, but in fact, I absolutely know what you mean, and I have great respect for that view. I think it takes us down a road of impossible arguments, and while my road takes us down a road of some laws we won't like, it's a lot easier to understand, which is not its defense. I just mean that if a community wants to ban something, they can. They can ban anything they want except, your religion, your gun, the things that you were constitutionally protected against having people banned. So
you're in disagreement with Hamilton and the Federalist 84.
Well, not as much as you think, but to disagree with you is a joy, and I love it, and you are great, and I can always tell when you've been on the show because I'm exhausted. I love you, man. Thank you very, very much. 1043, the great Kenny of Prosper. Listen, I'll even plug the site. Was it thesaneparty.com?
TheSaneParty.com.
The Sane, S-A-N-E, TheSaneParty.com. Kenny's got a lot in his bag and the need to spread it around, so let him. He's a cool dude.
I kicked the habit of smoking back some time ago.
It's been a tough couple of days for Hank Jr., so I want to do a little something for him.
I tried the hard stuff, but I had to let all that go.
From habits old and new, I mean, I know I could have done All My Rowdy Friends or something like that.
But the toughest thing I ever gave up was to stay.
Not the biggest Hank Jr. hit, but one of the best. Old Habits from 1980.
Although habits like you are hard to break.
You're not likely to be hearing Hank Jr. on Monday Night Football anymore after the Obama-Hitler loose comparison there. So maybe we'll throw down some Hank Jr. around here. Not out of defense for his tortured reference on Fox and Friends, because it's just don't be stupid enough to throw Hitler down. Just don't ever go there. Here's example number 743 of somebody who gets in trouble for invoking Hitler. Anyway. All right, but anyway, he's taken some tough punches on today's show. So from 1980, little Old Habits. 214-787-1820. We are in Waxahachie. Don, Mark Davis, on WBAP. Hi.
Hey, how you doing, Mark?
Very good, thank you.
Man, I really did like your last guest on. He knows what he's talking about.
Isn't he something? That's just an interesting guy.
Oh, I tell you.